such as my university's current course on technology management. Let me now turn to the contributions of other international agencies with whom I have had some association. The Asian Development Bank, or the ADB, and the Asian Productivity Organization, or the APO, have been active in this field for many years. ADB's publication, Technology Transfer and Development, answers the question of whether or not the increasing technology gap between the developed and developing nations can be bridged by suggesting a pragmatic model for technology transfer and development. The model consists of 4 major components: technological capability, technological infrastructure, technology policies, and policy instruments. The APO's strength lies in conducting multi-country study missions, in addition to offering training courses and expert consulting services. The APO also sponsors research studies which have led in the past to the development of a series of publications. For instance, the 1994 publication titled Technology Development, Adaptation and Assimilation Strategies at the Corporate Level, a survey report, outlines 22 elements and factors that affect technology transfer. These elements are based on the recognition process, partnership formation, the project execution process, and the stabilizing factors. I would also recommend that you study the 1991 APO report on upgrading the technological capabilities of small industry. One of the conclusions of this report is that a major constraint to the early development of the small and medium enterprise sector is the inadequacy of government programs to provide the needed technical support. The areas targeted for improvement can be divided into, again, 4 major categories. These are the development of technological infrastructure, the promotion of technical activities, the strengthening of technology delivery system, and the establishment of the national institutional mechanism to promote technology transfer. I would like to call your attention to the unique contribution of UNCTAD in terms of technology indicators and how they relate to developing countries. This is a study prepared by UNCTAD Secretariat in 1991. They discuss technology indicators under 3 following major headings. First, input indicators. Second, output indicators. Third, technology-related economic performance indicators. Input indicators can be further distinguished according to the source of technology. First, imported or transferred technology, such as foreign direct investment, the import of capital goods, and payments for proprietary technology and technical assistance. And second, domestic inputs or efforts such as the resources devoted to science and technology, to human resource development, and to plant and machinery investment. Regarding indicators of the generation of technology or output indicators, it has been shown that the range of indicators is limited due to the overall weak interrelationship between science and technology, lack of data, and conceptual constraints in defining inventions and innovations across countries. Technology-related economic performance indicators can be divided into 1. Performance indicators related to domestic economy, such as productivity changes and product innovations. And 2. Export or trade performance indicators, such as changes in the market share of technology-intensive products and technology export. Among the various contributions of other international, governmental, and private agencies, I would like to touch upon the role of transnational corporations. In particular, the United Nations Center on Transnational Corporations, otherwise known as UNCTC, has done a study in 1990 of the impact of new technologies on the export of minerals and commodities, the location of industries, the channels of technology transfer, and employment. UNCTC strongly recommends maximization of South-South cooperation with respect to new technologies. They believe that there is a critical need to develop information networks and linkages between developing countries. There is also considerable scope for extending technological knowledge and capability on new technologies which are available in the public domain in the developing countries and the developed countries. Let me touch now on negotiation. Negotiating with someone from a different country and culture can be a unique experience. It is not just a question of language. There are usually differences in value systems and in the way business is conducted. Established traditions have to be examined in a historical light. The importance of time may be perceived very differently in different countries. Industrialized nations generally believe that time is money. Negotiations, therefore, are conducted at top speed. Everything depends on how quickly a decision is made and how committed the concerned parties are to this decision. Both timeliness and reliability are important in such successful negotiations. Where differences in customs, traditions, language, and value systems exist, the experience of negotiation can be exasperating and or interesting depending upon your point of view. If you are able to overcome these differences and pursue the goals set forth in the transfer process, the results can be rewarding. Tolerance and mutual understanding are major factors in such negotiations. The world might be shrinking, so to speak, but the rapid pace of information communication technology is not matched by the rate of integration of cultures and traditions. Let's talk a little bit about financing. Resource mobilization may not be much of a problem for large multinationals with alternative sources of finance. But small organizations which do not have access to commercial loans or dependent upon the concessional rates offered by the development finance institutions, otherwise known as DFIs. These institutions can provide medium and long-term loans, debenture bonds, grants, performance bonds, etc. DFIs sometimes take a small equity participation in the joint venture during its startup phase. State and private banks can also help. But the equity coming from a foreign source may have to be a minority one. The problem of using a DFI is that the loan applicant's background is studied so carefully that the process takes a considerable amount of time. One criterion for evaluation is the extent to which the project in question contributes to the societal development. For example, whether or not the project will provide for import substitution or export possibilities would be taken into consideration. Many developing countries offer liberal tax and tariff incentives to encourage the inward flow of technology and know-how. This is especially true if doing so will promote direct foreign investment. Attracting foreign investment is a strong motivating factor for the rapid establishment of technology base in a developing country that either has commercial departments in embassies abroad or to cater to these types of investments or separate entities such as industrial development agencies. These agencies play a major role in attracting new foreign investment and technology. A very important question that the foreign investors would be interested in having an answer to is, what provisions are there to protect my investment against the political risks in the recipient country? Insurance coverage is not always available for a variety of host country problems such as devaluation of currencies, repatriation of capital and profits, political upheavals, terrorism, and nationalization of private sector enterprises. Sometimes, bilateral treaties between two countries provide investment protection against political risks. The International Center for the Settlement of Investment Disputes, otherwise known as ICSID, can help if the countries concerned are signatories of the convention that established ICSID, which was created under the framework of the World Bank. So, what about the commercial viability of our investment? International technology transfer is meaningful only if the transferred technology can be well used and used for the benefit of the society as a whole. This transformation process is called technology commercialization. An in-depth study can be found in the 1997 Harvard Business School publication, Commercializing New Technologies by Vijay Jolly. The author has illustrated in detail these concepts, providing hundreds of relevant examples. I will provide here one such example. The Danish Technological Institute did a study covering a period of 6 years, from 1985 to 1990, of how ideas get translated into realities. They collected 5,000 ideas from inventors and public sector researchers. 350 or 7% of these were retained as original and worth pursuing. Only 94 of them passed the next level of assessment in terms of patentability and got licensed to companies. Out of these, only 30 products actually got produced by the licensee. And 1991 follow-up study showed that only 15 products were still in production. Many technologies fail, not because of the technical skills of their proponents, nor because of the market to which they are targeted, but mainly because no one got sufficiently interested in them at the right time. Many technology-based inventions never go beyond the conception stage. Patents remain the trophies of the inventors. Even if inventions got incorporated into usable products, some fail later. The introduction of a new technology is a binary event. Either it is worth a lot or it's worth nothing. There is no in between. Commercializing a new technology involves performing 12 different activities. The first one is concerned with techno-market insight. And this involves linking a unique technology-based idea to a market need. The idea creation process helps to provide scenarios of the future and create conditions wherein chosen problems are examined in detail. At this stage, making business contacts is encouraged. Brainstorming sessions are conducted, and there is a free flow of ideas. The process continues with obtaining endorsement from owners and stakeholders who study the commercial attractiveness of an idea by exploring the best applications of the given technology. Once the level of commercial attractiveness is determined, the organization should begin the process of assembling support resources, including appropriate amounts of capital, skill development, and various infrastructure components necessary to quickly package a demonstration. Contextual demonstration involves a study of a broad pattern of interaction between a product or service and the potential user. If successful, this should lead to market acceptance and end user adoption once the product or service is marketed. Next, the organization must decide between producing and selling the end products worldwide on one's own versus engaging the cooperation of others. Long-term value of the product can be enhanced through a variety of measures. It is important to regulate the speed of technology commercialization to suit market opportunity. The last stage is one of integration. This is where an organization disseminates and blends this new technology into all its business functions, from design to delivery. This sequence of steps provides a logical basis to make investment decisions. It allows for corrective actions to be taken at the appropriate phase and allows managers to decide whether and when to drop a particular idea or potential innovation. Taken together, these steps are intended to reduce the guesswork traditionally associated with technological innovations. Now, let us turn to the process of government approval. As mentioned earlier, the regulatory agencies play an important role in attracting new technology through mechanisms such as foreign investment boards. These entities try to ensure that any contract signed with a foreign party is fair in terms of items such as royalty payments for licenses, the deployment of technicians, the length of stay, the payment for their services, etc. These organizations also scrutinize the sums paid for technical assistance, equipment, and licenses. They look for restrictive clauses such as the use of foreign trademark and resale in a third country. A technology should not be purchased from abroad if it is available locally. The technology should be unpacked and only those essential imported in order to serve the best interests of the country. Self-reliance should be the major goal of emerging nations. This may sound contrary to the notion of global interconnectivity, but it is not. Macro issues such as balance of payments are the priority concerns of any government. It is therefore important for the transferor to be fully aware of the local guidelines set by the host government with regard to the rules and regulations concerning foreign exchange, assets repatriation of profits, and so on. Any international negotiation requires the formulation of options, the use of criteria for gains appropriate to both cultures, and a willingness to renegotiate if necessary. The best way to build a relationship is to separate the people from the problem and adjust to their style and pace. We have seen the roles played by the international and intergovernmental organizations in bringing together the seekers and the donors of technology. Science and technology are becoming increasingly important. The coming of the information age to a borderless world has accelerated the flow of technology. While the opportunity for the selection and acquisition of technology exists, an important prerequisite for the actual realization is the existence of explicit political will at all levels in the recipient nation. Technological dependence on the developed country will continue to plague the developing nation if no provision is made to support the technology transfer with an appropriate technology infrastructure. The transfer process should be regarded as an instrument of change. It is not easy to effect a sweeping change at the societal level. Differences in the level of performance between the technology transmitting and receiving countries must be understood. and steps should be taken to remedy these, or the technological dependence will continue. Deliberate measures must be taken to unpack a given technology, attempting always to integrate indigenous products as much as possible. A minimum infrastructure is a prerequisite for local modifications of technology. This process should be supported by formal training and a hands-on practical implementation approach. The lessons learned from various projects indicate that rapid economic development can be attained by taking a balanced approach to the following 8 policy considerations. Number 1, a high rate of capital accumulation and saving. Number 2, successful transfer of agricultural and industrial technology. Number 3, a quality workforce. Number 4, export-oriented development strategies. Number 5, relatively prudent and sound fiscal and monetary policies. Number 6, a strong incentive to attract entrepreneurs. Number 7, development of a supportive bureaucracy. Number 8, a tolerable level of income distribution. Let me conclude by saying that the primary responsibility for developing technological capabilities lies with the developing countries themselves. They alone can determine the proper technologies for rapid socio-economic development. Hence, each country must evolve a unique strategy based on its own needs. There is no universal prescription. Technology-based development planning must be by choice, not by chance. Conviction, determination, resolution, and above all, a strong political will are necessary to achieve the transformation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Krishnamurthy. Let us begin the first question and answer session. We will try to answer as many questions as possible. Therefore, we ask that only one question be asked per phone call, and that these questions be as brief as possible. You may call the studio directly at the phone numbers or fax which now appear on your screen. We remind you to make your phone calls at a distance from the monitor to avoid feedback. Our first question is from Mexico City, from la Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México, la Facultad de Medicina Veterinaria y Zootecnia.
How do the new technologies affect the diplomacy of the developing countries such as Mexico?
Dr. Krishnamurthy.
The diplomacy aspect is best handled by my colleague here. I think he should be able to answer this better than me.
Geza.
I'm sorry,
new technology. How is it going to affect the diplomacy and commercial diplomacy in a developing country such as Mexico?
Well, with the new technologies, it is much more possible for people in various countries to stay in continuing touch with each other. And that, of course, multiplies the number of interactions internationally among people. And that, of course, again, emphasizes the importance for everybody to develop a capability of being able to manage diplomatic relations, not just governments.